As amazing as the 2010s were in space exploration, quite frankly, I expect the 2020s to be absolutely amazing. I expect it to be the best decade in space exploration since, well, the 1960s when we first sent humans into space and we also landed them on the moon for the first time. It's going to be some really exciting stuff that's happening here. And let me give you some of the highlights in no particular order that I think will be major milestones. The one that we've waited for perhaps the longest is the James Webb Space Telescope, a new, very large telescope that's going to be put into orbit a little bit beyond the Earth. This telescope will measure light in the infrared, and hopefully with it, we'll be able to understand much, much better our place in the universe. It's meant as kind of a replacement to Hubble, although it's not a direct one-to-one. It looks to be really amazing though, and I can't wait to see what comes out of it. Hopefully SpaceX will have a really, really good decade. They have a number of things on the horizons that just promise to be absolutely revolutionary. The first one I expect to have happen is the launch of the Starship to orbit. And if they can manage to make it to orbit, not only just do it once, but to constantly, repeatedly do this, it's going to be a paradigm shift in how we view space. The cost to get to space is going to be reduced by an order of magnitude beyond its already relatively low cost. Anybody can start to think about carrying stuff into space. It's going to be really, really exciting to see that happen, and hopefully we'll see it. If nothing else, they'll probably send a mission to Mars. They'll probably be able to carry larger payloads into Earth orbit for much, much cheaper than some of the other ways that have been proposed to do it. And it promises to be really mind-blowing, the changes it does. But if they can manage to refuel one of these things in orbit and be able to completely reuse it, then absolute game changer. The Starlink constellation of satellites hopefully will be active, and maybe some of these other internet webs as well, and we'll be able to have internet access from anywhere on the planet. That is high-speed access. That's going to be amazing. No more once that happens will you have to live in a city if you want to have good internet. You can live anywhere. And I think that's going to lead to some really neat and interesting things that we're not even really thinking about very much today. Now, they have a few quirks to work out, most notably the potential effects to astronomy, but overall, it looks really, really cool, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Another major milestone I expect to happen that won't be SpaceX is I expect to see private citizens going into space. Now, this is primarily going to be focused, at least in the early days, on suborbital missions where you're in space for only a moment. We have a couple of providers here in the United States that are promising to do that. To date, we've only sent something like 6 astronauts into a suborbital trajectory, and hopefully that's going to really, really change here in the coming decade. Can't wait to see more coming out of this, and the chance to be able to go to space for anyone is amazing. For less than the cost of my house right now, you could get a ticket. Still way out of my price range, although, you know, if you want to send somebody out there, Blue Origin, you can come talk to me. You can come find me. I'll talk to you. Looks to be really exciting, though, and can't wait to see more coming out of the privatization of human spaceflight. With the commercial crew program that is also promising to land here soon, you'll be able to get to orbit, although something that's very much beyond my price range in the tens of millions of dollars, that may go down in price too. I think, though, that with the ability to get humans to space at any commercial price, we're going to start to see real, true space tourism. I predict we're going to have a space hotel in the next 10 years. That's something that's been talked about for a long time. The Bigelow Company, with their inflatable habitats, has talked about doing this for a number of years, but they weren't able to do so because they just couldn't get humans into orbit. They needed to be able to dock with the station, otherwise it was kind of a non-starter. Well, between the Crew Dragon, the Starliner, and no doubt other capsules that are coming around there, we're going to be able to send private citizens into space. It's going to be really neat to see what happens from that. And at first it might not be, you know, a typical private citizen, but maybe just a country wants to sponsor a mission to send a person into space, but they'll be able to do that. And I can't wait to see what more is coming out of this. It's just going to be amazing to see this. probably in this next decade, we're not going to quite get there, but I expect to have plans to be able to mine some asteroids and to be able to start exploiting the resources there. In particular, there's one named Apophis that's going to pass relatively close to Earth at the end of the 2020s, and it will pass again in the middle of the 2030s, even closer. I think that would be a really good candidate to send a mission to and maybe try to do some kind of mining to it. It'd be really interesting to see, and since it's going to pass close to Earth a couple of times, then it seems like a good candidate, although I don't know what it's made out of offhand to know if it would be worthwhile. But as we start to mine space, then we're going to be able to build bigger and bigger habitats there. We can take some of the valuable minerals like gold that's used in the electronics that you're no doubt watching me from. That's really expensive. Will help to drive down the cost of all of this stuff, and it's just going to really change the way that we think about resources. We won't have to fight over resources as much because there's tons of them in the solar system. Absolutely amazing if we can get there at a reasonable cost. The Artemis program, getting back to the moon, I don't know if I agree with the year 2024, but I think that we're really going to be able to send humans to land on the surface of the moon sometime in this coming decade. When it will happen, I couldn't really predict, but it will be nice to be able to get back to the moon for people who are younger than 50. You haven't seen any of these moon landings before, other than archival footage, and there are some pretty neat things out there, like the Apollo 11 documentary that really shows how it was. But we need to see something in the more modern day, and I can't wait to see what more we'll get out of this here in this coming decade by bringing humans back to the moon, and we'll be able to hopefully do it in a much more sustainable way and build a moon base. Hopefully we'll have the starts of a moon base by the end of this decade as well. So overall, I think this is going to be, as I said at the beginning, a most exciting decade in space exploration and space knowledge in general. We're probably going to detect an Earth-like planet here that is outside of our solar system. I predict that's going to happen. We may even find other life, who knows? But the amount of cool technology that we're starting to reach is something that I've been looking forward to since I was in 3rd grade and starting to read all of the books on space exploration I could get my hands on. Hopefully we'll be able to start really doing some of this kind of stuff, though. Some serious space exploration. Thank you guys very much for joining me. Let me know what I've missed out on this list that you think is going to happen in terms of space and space exploration over the next decade. Thank you for your support and everything you guys do. And until next time, keep on tracking. Take care.